There's a piece about this that they had on Fox News.
Yes.
Where they are defending...
Oh, of course. Wait a second. Fox News defending a slave master?
I don't know what bizarro universe we live in for that to be a headline, but here we are. And here is it. And I think we should have a conversation about this afterwards.
It says this right here. This is well documented among historians. This is historical fact that slaves did develop skills while they were enslaved and then used those skills as blacksmiths, as in agriculture, tailoring
in agriculture
in the shipping
for who
business,
though? Who did we use those skills for?
Themselves and their families once they were freed.
So like the idea that like, oh, you learned agriculture, right? Yeah, at the expense of our own lives being taken.
And that's the point, right? That's the point that they're missing from this. Like, we only benefited in the sense that we weren't murdered.
Yes.
Murdered for this. We had no other option.
Yes.
But to learn these things or comply. Are you familiar? Like, this is such an infuriating topic to hear people talk about this in 2023. I remember we went to the African American History Museum, the Smithsonian.
Yes.
And I remember touring the first floor.
Yeah, it's tough.
And my stomach got upset. Yeah. And I had to leave because I felt like I was going to throw up on the floor. And to sit here and have somebody on live national television defend slavery and the fact that us as people benefited, casting aside the ramifications that black pregnant women who were enslaved had their stomachs ripped open and babies fed to alligators.
Right.
What was done to our hands and our feet and our bodies for refusing to comply.
Yeah.
How people jumped off of ships choosing drowning, one of the most excruciating methods of death that is possibly known to man, over bondage.
Yeah.
And you're saying that this is beneficial to whom?
And not only that, Farouk, but when we did post-slavery try to establish our own towns,
they were burned.
Right.
We were incinerated.
Right. When we had success on our own, when we had economic success, when we had agricultural success, I mean, there's a whole narrative around the fact that black people were, at one point had a lot of the skills. And so you had to develop unions because there were massacres in Chicago and St. Louis of white people because they didn't have the skills to go to work and the workers were black. These are historical facts, but obviously this is not what Ron DeSantis and Florida Education want to teach. They don't want to teach the whole story. They want to teach that half of the story. And it's really about, nigga, you should be thankful to be here in America. And this is the attitude of a lot of white supremacists, particularly these white Republicans, is you should be thankful to be here in America. You should be thankful for any scraps you get, nigga. Because you could be in Africa right now. You should be thankful you ain't praying to a tree. This is that mentality.
How dare you? How dare you say that black people benefited from 400 years of capture, of enslavement, of rape, of disease, of torture, of pain, of not knowing our history, of being relegated to called 3/5 of a man, have to fight for civil rights, have to witness Emmett Till, and then fast forward to Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. How dare you say we should be thankful that we've benefited from this, and yet we've still reaped nothing. We have nothing to show for this.
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you also, I mean, go look at the movie 12 Years a Slave. Where here was a guy, a black man that was free. Because sometimes we'll take like 2 or 3 examples. Hey, a black dude, paid for his own freedom. And we'll take that story over the millions of black people that were slaughtered during these 400 years, right? The millions of black people that we lost in the Middle Passage. But this was a free black man he was enslaved again, right? Just by being black, he was put to enslave. Not to mention what we're seeing mass incarceration happening right now. One of the places that it happens the most is in Florida, right? And so it's like, we'll imprison you and you can learn some skills in prison, right? And so when you take it out of context and you're like, oh, some black people, did some black people learn these skills? But millions of black people were slaughtered, murdered, raped, tortured, degraded, debased, and you want to erase all of that and point to 1 or 2 black people that through sheer will or whatever resilience were able to survive. It's absolutely ridiculous. Miracle?
I think what's also missing in the context of skill development is one, Black people already had skills. Black people already had knowledge in a language.
Absolutely.
Prior to chattel slavery, prior to the transatlantic slave trade. In addition, Black people were creating during slavery because of the vile and utter brutal cruelty that was being besieged upon them. For instance, figuring out how to better gather crops so they wouldn't be murdered, killed, beaten, or raped, figuring out how to cook food because the food that was given to people who were enslaved was dirty, had mold, was literal scraps from the table because people were starving, because there was no incentive to take care of slaves when you could just buy more or breed more slaves.
Absolutely.
And people always want to talk and gloss over the sheer brutality that was slavery. I believe y'all should read the diaries of the slave masters. I believe y'all should go back and look at the sketch of the tools, the torture tools that they created to subjugate and break and kill and murder slaves, to have a better informed conversation. Because if we're going to talk about slavery, we have primary source documents about what happened during the time of slavery because the slave masters wrote it down themselves. We have pictures, we have portraits of things that happened.
Immaculate records about this, about purchasing people.
But Miracle, if we teach that in the schools, that's going to make white students feel bad, Miracle.
It's going to
make them feel bad about being white.
Sometimes that's what you need, because if you're not learning the accurate portrayal of this history, then you are...
And then on top of that, they want us to...
This is difficult. I'm not gonna lie, this is very difficult.
They want us to feel bad about our anger towards slavery because they keep trying to remind us that we benefited somehow.
Yeah.
But white kids can't sit with the guilt of their ancestors.
Well, Bree Newsom had a tweet. She said, you know what's funny about the teaching history makes white kids feel bad argument? It assumes white children should only identify with the slave holders of history and not the white abolitionists. Reveals a lot about those arguing it. You know what I'm saying? This is a comment from the Educational Commissioner of Florida, Manny Diaz. He said that the changes to the Black History curriculum will make it more robust. I think this is something that's going to set the norm for standards in other states. He said Florida would continue to teach the good, bad, and ugly of American history in an age-appropriate manner. And so, again, this is an attempt to also, clear the slave masters to say, oh, well, some good came from this. It wasn't all bad. They weren't all wrong. They weren't all bad. You know what I'm saying? You had some good slave masters. You know what I'm saying? Thomas Jefferson was a good slave master. So you get into this idea of that thinking, and it's fascinating to see because it probably will. This is the wild part about what's happening in America right now. When you see these, Planned Parenthood, the Moms of Liberty going all around these schools to try to prevent the actual history being taught. Because when you should feel bad, you should feel guilty.